speaker is the National Oratorical Champion of Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Mr. Philippines Supreme Student Government in 2015, had been judged Best Radio Anchorman for 4 years during his junior high school days, a two-time Batang Rizal awardee, the last was last year, the host of the 2018, we just had that this year, Positive Energy Battle of the Brain, sponsored by EDC, that's a Negros Island event. Currently, he is a first-year foreign affairs student at Silliman University. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for the champion of the second Extemporaneous Speaking Contest here in Dumaguete. Let's welcome Mr. Stefan R. Mack. Let's give him a big hand. And I'll shake your hand. It is cold. Come on, Ryan, go.
Okay, check, test, 1, 2, 3. Okay, just making sure. So, I didn't have 10 minutes to prepare, but I have a script, so that serves to my advantage. Normally, I'd recommend that you don't use a script when delivering a speech, depending on the speech you're planning on delivering. But if I wouldn't use a script, I feel like we'd be here for another hour or two. So this is for everyone's benefit. Okay, without further ado, we shall begin. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Mack, and a younger me opened up a national level speech competition way back in the past. A somewhat older me stands before you today in the hopes of igniting a passion of speech in all of us here. Now, I may not be the most credible source, but I do have my fair share of experiences behind me. The breathtakingly beautiful, like all of you have undergone right now, and the not so much. Now, the best way to kindle the flames of passion, I think, is through lived personal experience. By that, I mean something with real substance, if you get what I mean. So I'll do this through a story, but I promise not to be arrogant. It's actually a very private story that I don't share often with people, but now, coincidentally, I find myself sharing this with an entire crowd. So let's go. Imagination is everything. A speech is something that needs to hook on to a listener, refusing to let any of the captured escape. You need bold, bombastic, and solid concepts that often require an exciting stretch of one's imagination. As a kid, I would often find myself telling stories. Fellow children would love my stories completely. They join me in the process. But the parents, they would often suffer because I would never know when to end my stories. So in short, be vivid until everyone and anyone can be given a tour of your imagination, even if you're talking about the most boring facts in the world or lesbian dance theory. It's up to you. Use whatever makes your heart flutter. In short, the passion behind the speech. Soon enough, I found myself channeling my endless storytelling curse into speeches. Very basic speeches at that, elementary level speeches. My newfound interest allowed me to take part in a regional extemporaneous speaking contest, and I absolutely loved that to bits, but naturally I was also very terrified. I was a little province boy and didn't have the skill set that most of my city-dwelling competitors had. I was thankfully able to place third in that competition way back then, and I felt ecstatic knowing that others actually listened to what I was trying to impart to them. They actually took care of my message and carried them on days after the contest. I used what I had and what I loved. That was simply my provincial background. I inspired myself through the heavy mud on a rainy day, vegetation and plant life, and soundless nights, lit by more stars than I've ever seen since I actually moved to Dumaguete City. A love that drives you can be found in absolutely anything. Depending on your perspective, in absolutely anyone. So no matter where your roots are, no matter where you come from, you just have to be open to the options presented to you. Life just happens. Luck can't be controlled. Contestants, you might be very familiar with that, given that you randomly pick topics. After the Extemporaneous, I was a radio broadcast anchor for most of my junior high school life. Now, I'm a horrible dancer, but somehow, through some fortunately unfortunate decision, I became part of a cultural dance group. Kinda unlucky, but through some divine intervention, I was informed of an oratorical contest just on the horizon. Very lucky for me. You can try to improve yourself to the point where you have this concrete control of your life completely. But life's too random, I say, even for the highly prepared. That's what makes it so worthwhile, the not knowing parts behind life. Just make sure you survive the horrible in-between moments, whether that be not knowing what you're talking about or just randomly rambling on stage, being presented with a situation you haven't prepared for at all, anything that you find horrible. Picture a dream and grab it now. Don't chase your dreams forever, no matter how young you are. The speech contest I joined was the Bangko Central Oratorical Contest, and I had just made the regional finals for Region 7. Through some horrible luck, I was only informed of the competition date 3 days before the actual contest. I ended up reciting over and over and over again for the entire travel to the event destination. You find yourself hating your speech at this point. You hate your voice. You hate the whole experience. Why do you even exist? Moving on, don't get me wrong, I was very frustrated. I had lingering thoughts of being unprepared, having my chances blown away. Why even bother going if I'll just fail myself? And I thought, worst of all, failing my province. I had a chance, I thought, but the universe just hated me. It squeezed lemons into my eyes. My goal at this point, even though it was kind of lofty, kind of high, was actually to claim a silver medal. But through some magical turn of events, I ended up claiming top spot and maturing as a person in spite of the self-projected negativity we suffer from as human beings. You have to envision yourself winning. With all the confetti falling and glistening trophies and certificates, those fresh certificates to your front and your sides. No matter how slight your chance is, if you have a fighting chance, focus only on whatever good may come out of the experience, no matter how horrible it is for the time being or so far. You won't stop the negativity completely, that's just human nature, and we all are subjected to human nature. But ask yourself if one night, one moment, 1 day, 1 month's worth of setbacks even will cost you something you've wanted to prove to yourself nonetheless for days, months, hours, years on end, regardless of the length. So weigh your thoughts, and please remember to cheer for yourself when the going gets tough. Hashtag original quotes. Go out guns blazing. When in a speech contest, it's like performing a magic trick, I always say to myself. You either do it perfectly or you won't amaze everyone. There's no time to hesitate. I find regret to be the harshest ghost life can offer. Why do you say it's debatable? Simply because it's an oftentimes permanent reminder of anything you will never do, or you will never do in your life, simply put. Worst of all, regret has the chance to grow with a person throughout the years. It's this specter that sort of overshadows every decision you make and reminds you that you're imperfect, that you can't handle the situation because a similar situation in the past presented in front of you has claimed victory over you. Don't think about it too hard. Not the most effective advice, but advice nonetheless. During the national finals, I was actually assigned as the first performer out of 10 incredible speakers. The usual rule in any speaking contest, whether it be extemporaneous, impromptu, or oratorical and memorized by nature, is don't be the first performer, because you'll just be used as a measuring stick for all the other performers to come. They'll set you at the back of the pack. The sweet zone is actually being somewhere in the middle, so the judges are already warmed up. And so you already have good time to size up your competition and build up whatever confidence you can within yourself. You know, let it brew like a good coffee. But at this point, I did not care for the rules anymore. I knew what I was after. And again, at this point in my oratorical life, I had gained the most vital value you can get as a public speaker. I became my own reassurance. Become your own measuring stick. Make sure your only competition is yourself. Then evolve again and again and again whenever the time calls for it. And well, I could go on, but again, I promised I wouldn't be arrogant, because I'm not. The rest of the competition is ancient history. Last year, I had the privilege of sharing my thoughts in this very extemporaneous speaking contest. This leads me to my last point. I told you it wouldn't be so long. Do it for yourself first, to evolve as a person. Then do it for everyone else, once you become an even better person. Speak with a cause. Once your words transcend thought to the point where they can be physically felt, make sure what is felt is what matters most today, from every day onwards, for the future's sake. Because that's what makes a speech count, young public speakers. That's what sets it apart from all the other speeches you can prepare, making sure that speech counts. So this contest is an outlet for brilliant young minds to be heard, just a little bit louder. After all, we're still confined by Robinsons. If no one is listening, I'm pretty sure everyone did, then maybe you just aren't doing your speech right. Maybe the way you deliver your speech isn't really matterful or matter-filled. Finally, public speech is not for everyone, trust me. But I say it should be for everyone. Now, contestants, you might be here for the passion of public speech. Maybe you've been obligated by your school, pushed to join this contest, or maybe you're doing it for the extracurricular points. I know I did back in my day, before I actually gained a real passion for public oratory. But your words today, they stay firm. No matter how awkward or clean your entire experience, your entire presentation was, your words echo throughout this very mall. So make sure your voices continue to matter every day. And every day, it'll get just a little bit easier. The hard part is actually making sure that you matter, making sure that your voice matters every day. Now, I just abandoned the speech because I'm not actually following the sequence, so I'm just gonna give it up and go and freelance this to end it. So I'm sure everyone's excited for the results, maybe even for the snacks. I know I am, I haven't had proper lunch. So I say to part ways with you, carpe diem. Seize the day for whatever time you have left in the day. Many people aren't offered luck in their experiences throughout their entire lives. And I say that evolve. Evolve as a person and seek out the luck that's always been amiss to you. With that, danke and auf Wiedersehen. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.